analyzing players and the team. Keep a great company in the stream.
It's a Murali. Welcome to the show. We're here when you're high. We're here when you're low. Some days you're happy, some days you wanna when happy. It's we when mad, it's them. It's the same place, Murali and Sri Lanka cricket we go represent. Go tell a friend.
Welcome to the Murali End. My name is Mark Machado. I'm joined by the Professor of Cricketology, Dominic Machado, and Sri Lanka's #1 journalist, Estelle Devon. This episode is powered by KidRated. Check out kidrated.com. There's also, on kidrated.com, which I only figured out the other day, you can get cheap tickets to London shows and to London attractions as well. So it's worth going on it if you want a day out in London, if you're about. And also KidRated will spread out across the world imminently, so keep an eye on it. We are previewing the Women's World Cup. The fun doesn't stop here on Murali End. You thought the Asia Cup was it, but no, we are back hours later. We've got a whole World Cup to look forward to, and I was going to say thanks to the good people of India, but let's not get into how it's happened. But we are also co-hosts of this World Cup as well, so we get to sample some of the and show the world our hospitality. It kicks off on Tuesday, the opening match, India versus Sri Lanka, the two co-hosts versus each other. It's been a quiet few months for the women's side, but guys, this is what I want to get out of this show, right? Okay, it's called a preview, but what we're going to talk about, what we can expect from our team, what we can expect from the other sides, and who we think we should and shouldn't beat. And also, let's finally conclude this with what would be a good World Cup for Sri Lanka. That said, Estelle, India versus Sri Lanka, how do you think Sri Lanka can win this game?
Well, the one good thing I would say is Sri Lanka have beaten them recently, right? So they don't have to look that far back to know what they need to do against India. I think for the Sri Lankan side, they find it I think even the men find it much easier to chase, right? Where they know what they have to do with the bat and they know like what type of roles each of those players need to play. So I think that's the way they have to go about things. But at the same time, you have to keep in mind like this Indian side has been getting some really big scores of late, right? I mean, I don't know how many of our viewers saw it, but like Australia got 400 and something against India and India got to 370. So they've been getting big scores. That opening partnership is going to be massive, and they are the ones who have made runs against Sri Lanka in the past, right? Especially Smriti. So the way to go is probably to chase, and I think overall Sri Lanka do feel more comfortable chasing. So don't think that will be much of a big decision to make for them in terms of the toss if they do win it. Guwahati is also known to be relatively high scoring ground. So I actually think, weirdly enough, Sri Lanka wouldn't mind that because they do kind of struggle against spin, right? So they would much prefer, I think, a flatter wicket. So chase to win, I think, for them right throughout, not just against India. And as I said, the big positive they need to be going in with is that they've recently beaten, like 3 games ago, they've beaten India. So they need to take that with them.
Dom, since the last World Cup, the last T20 World Cup at least, we have this team's kind of started to. It felt like they were moving on a bit when we saw them in May, but now we haven't seen them for a few months. However, what has happened since though is that Chamari was she player of the tournament in the women's CPL, right? And the little cricket that we have seen, it kind of feels like they feel to me a little bit more for team than they did even kind of a year ago, right?
Yeah, I think a couple of things that I would highlight. One is they've gotten some new young talent in that has shown the ability to produce in big games. Malki Madara being one of them, and Dumi Vahanga. And I think both of them will need to kind of play a big role if this team is to go far. The other productive thing is I think they've played with their batting lineup a little bit. And I think now they're sort of fitting people in spots that tend to work. So they've been opening with Hassani Pereira. She's looked good in the 2 warm-up games that they've played, and she obviously played quite well in that India-South Africa tri-series. They've got Harshita at 3, Vishmi at 4, and then they have Kavisha and Nilakshi at 5 and 6. And that's a partnership that's worked really well for them. They're busy players, active players. Nilakshi has shown that she can find the boundary. Big partnership yesterday in their warm-up match against Bangladesh, and Kavisha unfortunately got out, hit wicket. So that's been working really well. Anushka Sanjeevani's shown some good power down the order. So I actually like the look of that top 7. I think if they click and they can bat well as a unit, they can put up, those 250s, 260s, 270s without relying on a Chamari blitzkrieg. So that's a positive for me. And then the third thing that I like is seeing Udeshika Prabodhini back. I think at the top of the innings, one of the things that Sri Lanka has struggled with is to take wickets. And again, watching some of that game yesterday, seeing her swing the ball in those early overs, that's such a big difference. And getting off to those good starts and putting teams behind the 8 ball, where they have to change the strategy from being super aggressive up top to saying, okay, let's slow this down and consolidate. So having that bowler who strikes up top. So for me, those are kind of the 3 big things that I'm thinking about, is how are these 2 new players, Dumi and Malki, going to do? Is that batting order going to keep producing runs from all contributors, right, as opposed to just 1 or 2? And then 3, can Udeshika Prabodhini provide that early breakthrough that'll kind of help this bowling line up a little bit in its as it's struggled to kind of pick up wickets?
Esty, you're probably the journalist in the whole world who's closest to the Sri Lankan women's side. Have you heard much from them? Have you get any sense of what the feeling is inside the camp?
No, I think they're going in with confidence because we haven't had much interaction, given that there hasn't been too many games going on. But I was at one of the shoots that they had for the ICC, and Coach Rumesh was talking about how they're looking to take it one game at a time, looking to be positive right from the word go, no matter who they come up against, because they know that every team is going to be tough. And I think that's kind of a feeling every other team has as well, is that they can't take any opposition lightly, right? It's a World Cup, but we have only 8 teams there, so you have to expect that any team is capable of beating any team. Yes, I know it's like nearly impossible to beat Australia for some of the lower ranked teams, but like it could happen at some point, right? Someone has a big game. It's not like an impossibility. So I think Sri Lanka going in with that kind of confidence from the past. I know they don't really dwell too much on, the negative stuff. So I don't think they'll be talking too much about the fact that they haven't played international cricket since May. I think they will be looking to the fact that, they've got a good break. They performed well in that tournament, and that would probably give them confidence rather than if they had played a couple of series and not done so well. And that they're fit and ready. Everyone who they want to be in this squad. I don't think there's anyone who, they wish they could have. They've got pretty much everyone who they want to have in this squad. So I think they'll be going in with a lot of confidence. But from the outside, I mean, it's going to be a massive challenge, particularly the schedule, right? I think we spoke about it in the past as well. India first, Australia next, England 3rd game, New Zealand 4th game, South Africa 5th game. So the 5 top ranked sides, I think if you switch up New Zealand, probably England and South Africa, that's like you're facing the best 3 countries right at the beginning of the tournament, where it's one good game is not going to do much for you, right? And I mean, not to underestimate Pakistan or Bangladesh either, because Bangladesh beat Sri Lanka in the warm-up, and Pakistan has always been competitive. It's been 50-50 with them, right? So nothing is a given, but I'm sure they'll be going in with confidence because they've done well in the recent past, and they've shown, particularly the batting, I think will give them a lot of confidence.
One of the slight advantages we do have is that we are playing at home. some games. I think India and Bangladesh were playing in India.
Yep.
The home games at Colombo, I'm really excited because as long as my flight arrives in time, I will be there at the Sri Lanka Australia match. It's a big game for me. My wife's Australian, and I'm always telling her the Sri Lanka women's team are better than the Australian women's team. So hopefully no one lets me down there, and I kind of win this argument for the moment. I'm super excited about being there. As I keep saying, if you're going to be around, if you're in Colombo that day and you got nothing to do, come to that stadium, because I think we'll get to the pitch and what we can expect the pitch to be like in a minute. But I think one of the things we can definitely do as fans is there's very little difference you can make as a fan when you're watching online. But if you can get into the stadium and make a noise, be part of the Chamari army, then we can try and will the girls on to victory, right? Those Australian girls won't be used to papre. They won't be used to the smell of mutton rolls. They won't be used to Sri Lankan fans screaming and going off their heads. Let's bring the noise, basically, if we can, right? Let's talk about the pitch, though, because my understanding of it is, and I could be totally wrong about this, and you can put me right, because as you know, I follow and a lot of different sports. When you have a tournament like this, you basically have to hand over the pitch to the organisers, right? So in this case, the ICC, and they've kind of have a large hand in curating the pitch. Sometimes that works out well. Sometimes you end up with that New York pitch. Do we know, Esty, if that's what's happening in this situation, and because of that, we might get a pitch that isn't a typical Sri Lanka Colombo pitch?
Okay, but my question is, what is a typical Colombo pitch? Because we've seen two different kinds of pitches, right? Like for the men, we've seen the low and slow and the 220, 230 pitches. Yeah. But for the women in the last series and when they played in Dambulla, Pallekele, we've seen high scoring games. Like in that tri series, I think probably 80%, 70 to 80% of the games produce more than 280 runs, right? Yeah. So that's the question. Like, what is a typical Colombo pitch? I think it'll be batting friendly because a bowling friendly, a spin friendly pitch would give Pakistan a bit of an advantage, wouldn't it? And you don't want one team to be like, completely. So I think it'll be a batting
if you're the curator, if you're the curator of that pitch, what you really want is you want the World Cup final to be in that pitch. So you're
right.
if you want to curate a World Cup
final,
a semi-final and a final pitch, then maybe lean into the Pakistan team strength. I don't know. Like
so I guess the last bit of evidence we have is the matches they played against Bangladesh. The men played against Bangladesh.
Yeah.
And the notion was going around that they were trying to make the pitches good for batting. So, but they weren't particularly good for batting. They weren't particularly bad for batting. So I'd imagine that maybe they're a little further away from the typical Ketarama dust bowls that we've become used to seeing. I think the ICC will have taken care of it and made sure that it looks good. And we know that there can be high scoring matches played in Colombo. And I'd imagine that they tend towards that because it produces a more exciting brand of cricket. And because it's a relatively small tournament, it's 8 teams, right? So I think if you have 20 teams, you might want to bring the gap down, right? And the best way to bring the gap down is to make it harder to score. But since it's the 8 best teams, they're going to want to see runs.
You see, I'm kind of my kind of worry for I want to see a true cricket pitch, right, or as close to a true cricket pitch as they can create, which I think in this instance actually is what would be referred to as a batting friendly pitch, right? Because I think those dust bowls aren't doing anything for anyone at this point in time, right? Particularly not Sri Lanka national teams. But my worry is I don't know if the ICC have had it long enough to be able to change it, and how much people have to think about these types of things, right? So I wonder if, I know absolutely nothing about cricket pitches. I know even less about how to make a cricket pitch in Sri Lanka. When I was a kid and I'd go to Sri Lanka and see cricket pitches, I was surprised. I was amazed it didn't have grass in them. It made no sense to my Sri Lankan British eyes. But so that to me, it's a whole science that I will hopefully never understand. So I'm not sure what might happen, right? But I think it's a great advantage that we have that it's at home, and I hope we're able to kind of harness it. I think, right? It seems to me also, Estelle, that actually, we've been bemoaning on this show that we haven't played that much cricket the last few months. But I wonder if actually going into the last World Cup this time last year, the T20 one, where they played a hell of a lot of cricket, whether it was, a conscious decision that we're not going to play cricket, we're going to give them a good rest mentally, and we're going to kind of take all the stress and pressure off them. I know you laugh, but I mean, like, and what whether part of that, whether they were like, right, we tried one way, now we'll go the other way, and if
I think there probably was an expectation at some point that there would be an Asia Cup, right? Because that's what they did. That's generally like the Asian teams
warm up. Yeah,
they kind of like that kind of setup. But with the India-Pakistan thing, obviously that wasn't possible. So that may be one of the reasons why we haven't seen cricket for the girls. But I mean, May is just too long. I can understand if you have like a month-long break or 2 months, but May is, I mean, you look at other teams and even at the warm-ups, right? And this is a massive gripe I have with the ICC is that Sri Lanka's warm-ups are always against the lowest ranked teams. And Australia are playing England and India and whoever. New Zealand are playing India and England. India's played one series against England, one series against Australia. Now they're warm-ups against New Zealand and England. And I think one of the warm-ups was against India A. So like they're getting an extra opportunity for all of their squad to get into, a good rhythm. So no, I find it difficult to believe that they would like do this on purpose where they don't have cricket for this long. I mean, there's no point there's no point complaining or thinking about it now because we are already at the competition, but there has to be something done, right? You can't have a team going into a tournament where you're picking players because they performed well 5 months ago. That just doesn't make sense, right?
The more you can point to some long gone event and say, oh yeah, they played well in that, the better. No, but yeah. I see, Mark, what you're getting at. Like I do think the women were almost overplayed last time coming into the World Cup, and I think the Asia Cup was almost too close to the World Cup at that point, and sort of they drained the bank a little bit too much there. That being said, I don't think that's a good enough excuse to say they shouldn't be playing any cricket for 4 months. I think, and we could take some plus points is that teams don't know us as well, right? Teams have not played us enough. And I think a team might walk in and think, if you're England and you haven't played, I guess they haven't played Sri Lanka for what, 2 years? Is that right? 2023?
Yeah.
You might think to yourself, oh, this is just Chamari and a bunch of people around her. And that's distinctly not true. So I wonder if there is some advantage. And again, I'm not saying it's purposeful, but if there is some advantage to them not playing and having sort of a new look side.
So my kind of longer term worry about the women's side is that actually coming into this time last year, more or less, I think the T20 World Cup was on, right? And coming into it, we all thought we could do quite well. There was a chance that things would really work out for us. We'd just won the Asia Cup. We were really buzzed and excited about it. The World Cup we don't kind of do what we want to do. And I think, you see, and my fear is regionally that actually Pakistan and Bangladesh have much bigger population bases and are kind of around the same level that our women's team is at. I think if you went out into this kind of did a straw poll of people who watch women's cricket, they'd say Sri Lanka are the best of those three because they've kind of had recent success, and we've got an absolute megastar player. But my worry is from an SLC perspective, they might think that is the standard, where they might go, do you know what, we can't ever create something like like they have in India, but the standard regionally is Pakistan and Bangladesh. And it's an awkward topic to talk about, but the role women have in those societies is quite dramatically different to the role women have in Sri Lanka and the role women play in Sri Lanka. But this is an easy excuse for SLC not to over give the women and create pathways into the team that they need to, because they will always, the way it's trundling along is that we'll always kind of compete with our nearest and dearest rivals. And you kind of, because cricket is so embedded into Sri Lankan culture, it will every now and again produce a freakishly good player and talented player that will kind of keep us bobbing along, when actually there needs to be more of an impetus of, right, we need to be definitively better than those two sides, and we need to start knocking on the door of the kind of New Zealands and South Africas, and even the kind of, an England team, who we've competed with all these sides in recent years.
Yeah.
But are we going to be able to compete with them in 5 years' time? Are we still relying on producing X Factor players kind of out of nowhere, or do we have a pathway that's going to create it? And I kind of that is my kind of, I suppose this is almost, this is a preview of Sri Lanka women's cricket, right? But that's what my kind of worry is. And actually, we need to. This is why I think this tournament being at home is almost so important, because I think if fans get behind it, if people in the island start talking about it, like we saw in Dambula last year when they won the Asia Cup, I think it will just create another moment, and it will create another moment where SLC can't say we're not gonna, or SLC have to do more. They have to do more to find to create those pathways to get youngsters into the game. I don't know what your thoughts on that, Estelle. I know I've just thrown a lot out there.
No, I think you're right. Like, you have to look at the standard as, the higher ranked teams, right? And as you said, Sri Lanka have been competitive against every team apart from Australia. Australia is the only team they have not.
Till Saturday, we're saving it.
I mean, forget about the fact that they've never beaten them, but they've not been competitive against Australia. I think there's a massive mental block as well, because when they come up against that side, it almost feels like they're just trying to keep up with them. They're not really trying to win, and they're expecting something special from Chamari if they are to win. Whereas against other teams, because they have performed well against them, other players also have that confidence that they can do something. Like, Nilakshi De Silva played such a fantastic innings against India in that tri-series, and I think in yesterday's warm-up also she's played a really good innings. That it just takes that one performance to show you that, yes, these are great teams, but we can be competitive against them. And to talk about grassroots, actually, I wanted to mention today, Sri Lanka under-19s are playing the Australia under-19s here. Yep. They have not dropped a game yet, right? They played they've won every single game comfortably. Today they played an ODI, and they won by 180 runs. So there is talent, and they are competitive, and this is not a low-scoring game, right? Sri Lanka scored 266 in Dambula. So it's not one of those low and slow, and we've destroyed them with spin. But, they're playing proper, on true wickets, and they're competing against the best. You have to say Australia probably have the best under-19s in the world as well, right? Alongside India. So they're competing at that level. So that should tell you that at the highest level, you shouldn't be thinking of, we want to come out of this tournament with 2 wins against Pakistan and Bangladesh. You want to come out of this tournament probably with at least 4 wins, right?
Yeah,
and we now know some of these players. We have our eyes on some of these under-19 players as well. Manuti Nanayakara, who has spent some time with the national team. Sashani Gimhani. We've got Tilakaratna Dilshan's daughter. And then we even have players on the side like Sachini Nisansala, who are not in the squad. We have real strength. We have decisions that we can make based off of what we need in the team. And I think that speaks well to the grassroots development. We're seeing the under-19s playing against Australia. And I think this is their third series that they've played against Australia in the recent past, right? Because they had that tri-series with England and Australia, and then I think they went to Australia, and now they're playing at home. So this is like fantastic work at getting these young women the opportunity to play the best sides. Because if you actually look at the senior women's side, how often do they actually play Australia? Right? It's very rare.
Apart from World Cups, I think.
When
When
was
did they
the
last play? We went there, I think, last, right?
Yeah, they went there. I think it must have been 2020. Yeah, I was going to say 2020.
Yeah, and they came here in 2017 or 2017, I think, 16 or 17.
Yeah. So in some ways, the under 19s are getting that exposure. And of course, we've seen the efforts. Obviously, there are things better, but the women's version of the NSL, right, where we get the players playing and seeing what their talent is. And so I think the right bits have been put into play, and I think the triumph at the Asia Cup has done a lot for the game.
Yeah.
And I think this is something Estelle has brought up. I think the younger players are much more fearless. You look at the Kavisha Dilharis, you look at the Harshitas, they're ready to take the game on. They're not sitting back there and letting the game come to them. They're aggressive players, and when you hear them speak, they speak full of confidence, and that's what we want to see, not just from our cricketers, but we'd love to see it from these young women to make their own space in the world. So I think the good thing is we had all worried what's going to happen after Chamari retires. I actually think the country is in great hands with the young women we have now. And the game is growing and more attention is being given to it, in large part due to what Chamari has done. And so I think this World Cup will be a really good chance to create new memories, to create new superstars, to elevate that game just to that little bit more, so that we don't go 4 months before a World Cup without playing a match.
Just one thought on the under-19 side. When I saw that squad, I was surprised at, in a good way, in a positive way, the spread of where the players come from, right? Because it's not like when you look at, there is such a difference between where the men's team players come from and where the women's team players come from, right? In that, there's a couple of players from Trincomalee in that squad. There's players from all across the island. It's much more spread out than it is when you look at a men's side at every level, from the senior side all the way to under 19s. You generally look at where they come from, and it's all basically in and around Colombo, a few from Kandy, and then between Colombo and Gaul, and maybe one or two from elsewhere, right? Where you can see that, I've kind of knocked SLC already in this, but they are obviously cricketers emerging from much more rural parts of Sri Lanka and kind of, what I would consider underdeveloped in terms of cricket pathways, coming from all over the island, which is absolutely fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah, I have a kind of half-formed theory on this. I think it's probably because, with the men's game, the school system is so strong, right?
Yeah.
And you do see all these players who are playing for Sri Lanka, right? They be from Richmond or Colombo, schools in Colombo or schools in Kandy, but they did not start in those schools. I think that is the key thing to remember, is that when they do well for smaller schools, they get brought into some of the more prominent schools so that they can play at a higher level, and schools that, it's you can be critical about the system because it severely disadvantages a lot of those smaller schools, but at the same time, from the player's point of view, he's getting you think about some of these players, would they be the players that they are if they hadn't gotten those opportunities in schools that have more resources, play at a higher level, stuff like that. So many players who play for St. Joseph's College, right? Would they have turned out to be the players that they are if they had been? We won't know, right? So that system has not yet come to place for the women. I think that is the difference. And that because it was identified that, the men's side of things grew because it had such a strong and competitive school system, they wanted to implement that with the women as well. And I know Apsari Tilakaratne, who's a convener or something for Sri Lanka cricket, for women's cricket, she went around the island with staff, trying to get equipment to rural schools, trying to get them to start playing hardball cricket in their schools. I think these are the results we're seeing from it, and you're seeing district coaches, being employed in different districts around Sri Lanka. So in a way, because the school system is not that strong yet, you're seeing players from different areas of the country coming through. They're being scouted and brought into the national setup. If it does grow, you'd probably see something like what we see in the men's side, where you'd probably have a lot of players moving to Colombo or Galle, or Kandy, where like better opportunities exist for them.
It's fascinating, right? Watching it grow. I mean, me and Estelle basically first started talking years and years and years ago now. Though it only doesn't feel that long actually. About where the team, where the Sri Lanka women's team gone after COVID. They kind of disappeared for a little bit, and now I think it's such a wonderful story to watch. Kind of how it pans out. It's a story of kind of growth and resilience, because I think there's a lot of people there that probably don't like people. I'm sure Estelle knows, but I don't know who are working quite hard to keep this game afloat. I always think when I'm around the Sri Lanka women's side, and I've been lucky that I've been to games last couple of years, and 3 years in the bands now I've seen them play. I'm like think that the coaches and the people around them seem to bring out everything that they would do for the men's team, right? When in the actual match day experience, I don't know if that's true around it, but they warm up professionally. Every time there's always some idiot person I'm with who's like, oh look, they warm up professionally, and I'm like, yeah, of course they do. They're a professional team. Like they're paid to be here. They know what they're doing. But I think these levels of professionalism are slightly increasing. In a way, I kind of think actually, if SLC can get things right in terms of the pathway, it's almost more sustainable that you're going to produce a good, or the standard can be competitive with the women's side more kind of more consistently than it will be the men's side. Because I think the men's side there's just so many other men playing cricket. It's you need to come up with the odd. You need to have 2 or 3 freaks in every team to be able to, or world class players. I shouldn't call them freaks. That's a pejorative. But where with the women's side, they can just keep layering up and getting better over time. So I'm really excited about it all. Aren't you guys?
Yeah, I think there's a lot to be excited about, and I think I'm really curious how they'll do in this World Cup, because I think there's we've been chatting about this. There's the top 3 that we kind of see as being ahead of the game, and then the question will be, can Sri Lanka string enough good performances together to be that 4th side?
So off that top 3, I think if you take Australia, I mean, Australia have some great talk around them about being like one of the most professional teams in the world, one of the teams that is so far ahead of everyone else in terms of their planning and professionalism, compared to not just women's cricket, not just cricket, but also like all sports, right? The people who talk about it will tell you that this is the most well-developed kind of organization in the world. Let's not forget they did lose to New Zealand last year's World Cup, and they do, they win a lot, but they do lose occasionally as well. The India side, since for years and years now, has been steadily increasing. Sri Lanka have had some big wins against them in the last kind of 15 months since that Asia Cup, right? And then you get to England. For me, and I've said this in our group chat, and now I will say this out loud, is the England women's cricket team is one of the funniest things to follow in the world, because there is so much infighting, there's so much arguing, there's almost no separation between the people who may or may not be in the commentary box and commenting on the team around it, and the team. They love slagging each other off. The only thing I could think that is comparable to it is the Dutch national football team, who have frequently turned up to major tournaments with huge amounts of talent, but have kind of consistently underperformed because there's been so much infighting. That's why I will always have a special place in my heart for the England women's side. I love them all dearly. It's brilliant. I can't wait for them to start calling each other out during this tournament. I'm sure that's going to happen. It's kind of started to happen already because some players have been dropped by it. So I'm really excited about that. But I think when I talk about that, the reason I've gone into detail about it is because I don't think that Sri Lanka should go into this India's game or to the England game nervous. I think they just put your best foot forward, perform well. They've beaten them both recently in recent times. There's no reason why Sri Lanka should go into any of these games
Have they
worried.
beaten England in a one-dayer?
Oh, when
They've
was
definitely beaten. Yeah, I'm trying to think. Have they?
Did they not beat them in that series in England?
No,
they won the T20 and they lost the one day.
T20. Did they lose everything?
Yeah, they lost. Let's see. I'm gonna look this up.
Doesn't matter. They
won the
same team,
Arakas.
right?
They won the T20, right? Like
yeah, exactly. Yeah, It's not.
Yeah.
It's not But I do think they. If you can beat India, and they beat India like a couple of times, I think that means you can definitely beat England. But it's also one of these things where it's so much about their mentality, right? When they're playing good cricket, they can beat anybody, and have that self-belief. And that's where we've seen them play best, when they have that self-belief, because we know they have the talent to do it. They've done it all over the world. But it is daunting, though. Any way you look at it, going in and saying, okay, we're playing Australia, India, Australia, England, New Zealand, South Africa, because you can't go into that and just say, all right, let's just be loose and see what happens. You kind of want to win 2 games out of those 5. That's kind of
I was gonna say, actually, I think maybe they need to think about this as like a 6-team tournament and think that those are the 5 games they've got. What can they do with them, right? Like, forget about Pakistan and Bangladesh for the moment and see 5. You've got 4 games. You have to finish. You have to get at least 5 games. You have to get at least 2 wins out of them and play it like that, because there's, by the time they get to Pakistan and Bangladesh, tournament might be out of their hands, right? Like, and as Mark said, there's a real opportunity for the 4th team. To be honest, I don't see England as the number 3 in this competition. I think it's South Africa are going to be a real dark horse. They've got the batting to really cause some problems. They make it into the knockouts. I wouldn't be surprised if they make another final, because they've got like the talent. Like, you've got Wolvart, you've got Brits in superb form. You've got Dirksen, who was fabulous in Sri Lanka. So they'll be targeting those 2 games here. So I really don't see England as the number 3. I think it's most likely you're going to have India, South Africa, Australia in the semis, and that 4th place is it's really anyone's to grab.
Oh yeah, I agree. You don't know what's going to happen, right? When you get into it, just and also the other thing I will say is, we talked about our players being kind of almost extroverts on the cricket pitch. I don't think they'll be worried about this. I think they'll all be sitting around wherever they are now, thinking we can beat them. Like, we can win. We are the anxious fans. They're all stars. They're all ready to go out and shine. I wouldn't be surprised. I generally do think if we can somehow, like the Asia Cup, if they can get a good result early at home, if they can do something against Australia, if something happens, Australia might have a bad day, right? We're in Sri Lankan cricket.
11 Australian players can have a bad day.
Yeah, but Sri Lankan cricket, Estelle, the one thing we know about it is it's where the magic lives, right? We can have a serendipitous moment and suddenly have a magic over out of somewhere or another, and then suddenly with Sri Lanka, we're never out of it. Right.
Yeah, to be fair, against Australia, I think we've had them on the ropes. Not in the last World Cup. They were Sri Lanka's terrible in the T20 World Cup. But if I think back, like in 2020, they had them in deep trouble. I think Rachel Haynes and Meg Lanning put on a big partnership and got them over the line. Udeshika was like the key. She picked up early wickets. And 2017, when they last played the ODI World Cup, Chamari got that 170 something. And it took an equally good innings from Meg Lanning to get them over the line. So, like, there have been opportunities where they couldn't finish things off in World Cups, right? So, and they can't go into this tournament. I think, like, I know we are being kind of skeptical, or I'm being skeptical, and
You
talking
two are
about the
being.
schedule and all of
I
that.
assumed we're going to win. I like anything,
Everything, right?
everything.
We
Yeah.
have to be
Yeah.
somewhat objective. It's Mark. You're allowed to. Where if you have two people who are trying to be objective, you're allowed to be the homer.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Yeah.
If-
I think they have to go into it thinking, none of these teams are like unbeatable.
Mhm.
We can't beat any of these sides. They have to go in with that attitude, because I think what we saw against Australia in the last tournament was that they went in thinking they can't beat Australia.
Yeah.
And I think they got like 5 runs in the first 3 overs or something like that.
Yeah.
Chamari was playing defensive shots and leaving balls outside the off stump and stuff. You can't go, you have to meet 5 with 5 when you're facing good teams, right? You can't
Yeah.
like take a backward step against teams like that. So they need to go in there with that attitude that we've got an opportunity against the 5 best teams in the world, and we are amongst like the best teams in the world, right? They've
Yeah.
qualified automatically. So
It's not as if it's not like we backed in or something happened, and we deserve to be there. We played good cricket. I think one thing I'm interested to see is I want to see how Chamari plays. I want to see her play with full out aggression, because I think that's when she plays best. And I think now she has a side around her to support her, because I think some of the times where she doesn't go full out aggression is because she's scared that the rest of the side will crumble around her. And I don't think that should be the case, given the way that everyone around her has been batting. You have Hassani, who's kind of come into her own in this opening role. You've got Harshita, you've got Nilakshi, who's been playing the best cricket of her life. You've got Kavisha. There's all sorts of depth around her. So I say, if I'm Ramesh and talking to Chamari, I say, play your natural game, be aggressive, go for the big runs, try to put the other team on the back foot. Because we all know that she has those innings in those match turning innings that literally nobody else in the world can play. And if we get one of those, that could win us a game against somebody. And so even still, getting ahead of the run rate will make it easier in a chase. We saw that in the Asia Cup. She was aggressive and she got out, and we were all thinking, okay, this is over. But she had done the hard yards, and then Harshita and Kavisha were able to bring it home. So I think that would be my one thing that I'm looking out for is I want to see Chamari be a high octane player, be the star player on the big stage and perform the way we know she can.
Guys, should we talk?
Playing at home, I think this is like another kind of fate, right? She's in on her, like, in the last part of her career. This is another opportunity for her to really, really create something in Sri Lanka. And I know Mark mentioned it as well, like the Asia Cup. I really do think that there's been a big impact on like people in Sri Lanka in terms of the interest in the women's game. You're seeing a lot more people talk about it on social media, right? And what I said it then as well is that I see a lot of casual fans wanting to engage, like not people, like more than people who regularly watch men's cricket or regularly watch the women's game, like people who don't really watch that much wanting to talk about them and knowing like players like Chamari and knowing players who are in that side. So this is another opportunity for them, right? And we know that she loves that pressure. She likes having to carry that kind of weight. She does thrive in situations like that. So it's another opportunity for her at home, which she would not have expected, right? Because she would have had to wait for the Champions Trophy if Sri Lanka qualify in 2027 to actually play in front of a home crowd in a World Cup.
Are we expecting then, SD, that this might be the last time the Sri Lankan public get to see her on a big stage? Or
I wonder what happens, right? Because I mean, if we look at since the Asia Cup, like she's had a really lean run of things.
Yeah.
And it felt like she was losing her touch, but she's come back in the CPL and performed well. Obviously, it's more domestic tournament and really international quality players mostly, but it still would have given her a lot of confidence. I think Chamari, the competitor that she is, she probably wants a good performance before she calls
Yeah.
it a day. I don't think she wants to go out on like a note where she doesn't make any runs in Sri Lanka, like win one game in a tournament, right? Or don't win at all in the last T20 World Cup. So
Yeah.
I think she's kind of waiting for that. And every year we've got a tournament, right? We've got the T20 World Cup next year in England, then Champions Trophy. Maybe she would want to help Sri Lanka qualify, get in to the top 6 ranked sides to play. The Olympics are coming in 2028. So,
Mhm.
I mean, lots of things. I mean, 2028, she will be 38, I think.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it is a bit of a stretch, but if she can keep striking the ball the way she's been doing
Same
the
age
last
as
couple of
Angelo,
years.
right? 38. Do we know what the women's Olympic tournament's what the setup for that is? How many
So
teams?
what I heard was that it's gonna be like regionally one team, something like that,
Yeah.
right? In which
Yeah.
case it's gonna be
India.
incredibly tough.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be tough.
But just imagine you play like you've got India, Australia, England from Europe, South Africa. What are the other
well,
countries
I
that can
haven't.
make it in?
Well,
presumably, USA can't make it in now because they were just banned by the ICC.
Yeah. No, I mean, I was gonna say, like, just imagine like a USA gets in, and like New Zealand, Sri Lanka, Pakistan all sitting at home, right?
It's such a ridiculous it's such a ridiculous format, and it's going to be even more ridiculous. I mean, it's the same thing is true for the men, right? I guess West Indies can come from North America.
No, but they can only do it as one island, right? So it's like the Commonwealth Games where like Barbados
country,
compete.
Jamaica or Barbados or
Yeah, but still, that's not like as bad as having like the US or
well, I think the US are guaranteed because they're the hosts,
they're
right?
the hosts. That's right. Yeah. It's a ridiculous.
Do you think that is the format? I doubt it.
That's what I heard was that it was the regional.
It's the Olympic Games, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a shame if that is the format, I think the dual problems is that actually having facilities for cricket is outside cricket playing countries is relatively tough, right?
Yeah.
So you couldn't
you couldn't have a tournament like you would for like basketball, right? Like because that would make sense where they have the 16 teams and it's kind of like
got a full another Machado trying to join the show there.
Yeah.
And on top of all that, I think also they want to make it look like it's kind of vaguely competitive as well, right? So they don't want dead rubber games. I think
and also the fact of the matter is like to accommodate a sport like cricket is tough, right? Because of the time it takes. Like you can have. Why did they switch? Why did they go for 7s instead of 15s rugby? Because 7s done like that. So you got a 3.5 hour game versus a 15-minute game. It's very difficult to have more teams, right?
Yeah. Anyway, we don't need to worry ourselves about the Olympics.
Yeah.
Right, let's talk about what would be a good tournament for Sri Lanka. Do we need to see AKD in a golf buggy either in Colombo or in Ahmedabad? Like, is that the only thing that would be good?
It's not going to be in Ahmedabad. It's going to be in Mumbai.
Sorry.
So
yes.
no dry state.
No, yeah, that's why Estelle's looking to go. Right? Not that you wouldn't go to Ahmedabad, of course you would. So what would be a good tournament? Getting out the round robin, right?
Yeah, that's a good tournament.
Yeah. I think to be honest, semi-final would be like incredible performance. I think it would be awesome. But I think if they finish at 5, they'd be happy with that. Because like 5 means you've got 3 other sides below you, right? So, 4 or 5, they'd be happy with that. Realistically, I think it's tough to see them coming to the top 3 just because you have to play 7 games, right? So
yeah, be consistent. I mean, like, we basically need to wrap this up, but I think we'll just leave it on a plea. If you're in Sri Lanka and you can get to those games, like get behind the girls. I mean, join the Chamari army, right?
I was going to say that that's one thing we talked about in the Asia Cup. The women were so excited and thrilled to play in front of their fans, to see people coming out and supporting them. It buoyed them so much, right? And we have that great video of Vishmi talking about this and how much it meant to them and to the side. So that's my plea, is go out and support the women. And I think you'll see something special from them, because I think they love to know that they're playing for their country. They're proud of what they're doing, and that we are proud of them as well.
Yeah,
absolutely. Guys, we'll leave it there.
Are
We'll
we
be
talking
back.
11s? Playing
Oh.
11.
Yeah, I didn't even get to that. Right. Because I was going to say we'll be back on Tuesday after the game. We'll have a live reaction show, obviously. But what? Okay, so we'll talk about playing 11s then, Estelle. Who's your 11 for the game?
Yeah, I wanted to talk about it, especially because I think looking at the warm-ups and how things have gone, Malki and Devmi have to play, right? So they have to find a way that they fit both of them in. I think Sri Lanka will go with the regular top 7. So you've got Hasini, Chamari, Harshita, Vishmi, Kavisha, Nilakshi, Anushka. Then for the bowlers, I think they should go with Malki, Devmi, Udeshika, and Sugandhika Kumari. But I think there's an option there if they trust Devmi's batting enough to play the 5 frontline bowlers and bowling options. Or they could in someone like Piyumi Vatsala, because to be honest, guys, I think Vishmi's having a bit of a struggle. She's not making a lot of runs. She's not looking confident. She's got a duck in the warm up as well. Didn't perform well in that tri series, and I think being dropped down to number 4 probably is a hit on her kind of confidence as well, because I mean, she's the type of player who's opened a lot, right? Yeah. So that's probably something that would mess with her head as well. So I think there are few options that Sri Lanka can try and maybe will try during the tournament. Piyumi Vatsala has played the warm up yesterday and batted ahead of Anushka. So I would think that the management want to give her some game time as well. And she's a medium pace bowling all rounder, so she gives you another kind of bowling option.
Yeah, I'm sort of on the same page.
Whether they go with Hasini, Chamari, Harshita, Kavisha, those like the 6, that would be interesting actually to see.
Yeah, I'm sort of. I would say for the first match, you play the original top 7. This top 7 you've been going with, Hasini, Chamari, Harshita, Vishmi, Kavisha, Nilakshi, and Anushka. And then I think, and then I agree with you, Estelle. You got to play Malki Madara, and you've got to play Jumi Vihanga. Again, they're wicket takers. They can put pressure on the opposition. I think Malki Madara has good variations. That's something we saw in New Zealand. She knows how to use them. And I think Dumi also gives you batting. I'd be interested to see if they use Dumi as a little bit of a floater. I think that could be a potentially good strategy. I want to see Udeshika at the top. And then I think Sugandhika Kumari is a superb defensive bowler. And I think he'll be really key in this spot. It's interesting about Vishmi. I don't know. Given that she is very clearly out of form and she's a little bit low on confidence. But I wonder if, one good match, she gets some time in the middle. She starts middling the ball, because I think really one of her strengths is she could control those middle overs, given how good of a rotator she is, that, she's not going to lose a wicket unnecessarily. So she could have a big role to play. But again, getting another bowling option in with Piyumi Vatsala is, I think also a good thought.
I got really confused when I looked at that warm-up scorecard, because I was like, hold on, there's way too many people on this list. No one ever tells me because as like what you won't know if you're watching or listening is I'm really bad at numbers. So Dominic and Estelle, because obviously we filmed this across multiple time zones, are always having to correct me. I think Estelle must be so angry about how bad must really not have any faith in the British education system in terms of teaching people numbers. So the other thing I will say is I'm almost over trying to predict what 11s will be because Sri Lankan cricket doesn't work the same way kind of every other cricket team does. But I do think that Vishmi, I'd be really surprised if they dropped her, considering she's been in the team for so long and they've stuck with her for a while. I think that would be quite strange.
But that's one thing that the women's team has shown, right? Like they've been relatively consistent with picking players. They haven't really experimented too much or pushed the line too much. So I mean I was talking about like what I was thinking about the options that they could have, but I don't see them dropping Vishmi either. I think they'll play her at 4, probably first couple of games at least.
Oh yeah, I wonder if like. So actually, I kind of think with maybe the thing they experiment with might be moving Chamari around and making a bat slightly later. Maybe you're not. Estelle's like, no, absolutely no way. So no.
I'm saying no. I'm saying I don't want that to happen. Like they might do it because they did it in the tri-series, but I mean, how can you push Chamari down the order, right? Like that makes no sense to me.
And especially the power play, right? She's one of the players who can actually attack in that, make use of it. I
was just trying to think of things we've seen them do that they might,
and they did. They did try that. So.
They did that, yeah.
So it's super exciting when I look at this team. I mean, I love watching Harshita and Kavisha bat together. I don't even know why, because I mean, Kavisha Lahari just brings such energy to it, right? And she's so animated, and it's like I'm not sure anyone's actually told her that you don't have to score a boundary of every ball. And I'm cool with that. Let's stick with it. And Harshita is just an absolutely fantastic cricketer to watch play cricket when she plays shots. It looks as good as anyone else does, right? So it's well worth whatever they're charging to get into the ground. It's well worth it.
It's 100 rupees.
Yep.
It's 100 rupees. It's like, how much is that for Dom? It's like 30 cents. 33 cents.
33 cents. I can't even tell you how much I had to pay.
And it's 25 cents. 25 cents. Is it cents for Mark?
Pence.
Pennies.
25 pennies for Mark. Yeah. There you go. Come to the game. Come to the game. Guys, should we leave it there?
Yeah.
I think we have previewed this team enough. We'll be back, as I said, after the game on Tuesday. Win, lose, or draw, the Marillion will be with you all the way through this tournament. Come, as I keep saying, come to the game. If you come in on Saturday, DM me or leave a message or whatever. Try and meet up. If you're bringing a shorty, definitely bring me some as well. And we'll see you all on Tuesday. See you later. Thanks for joining us. Bye.
It's a Murali Inn, you're the place to be. Analyze the players in the team. Keep a great company in the stream.
It's a Murali Inn. Welcome to the show. We're here when you're high. We're here when you're low. Some days you're happy, some days you wanna when happy it's we when man it's them. It's the same place, Murali Inn. Sri Lanka cricket we gon' represent. So tell a friend.